Oh, so how do you do a butterfly flipbook inside IlluGen? Well, you got a couple of ways to do it. Me, I have two ways of doing them. I have the keyframe option where I manually animate parameters such as rotation to get this kind of motion. Or I got the more procedural option where I am using modulator to animate those params. But let's just begin with this one first. So let's just set a looping region, and then there you got it. So let's just go from scratch. We're gonna make a video where I go from scratch to Unreal. So let's begin. Home, new project, don't save. So basically for me I'm using two planes. So one for each wings shapes. Double click on this one. As you can see, what I do, I have one wing on one side and one wing on the other side. Sorry about that. So where was I? So yeah, one plane, and then I move this plane on one side. For me, it's gonna be about 15 units into the negative for the x-axis, and then what I like to also do is adding a transform node, which is where we're gonna do the rotation animation. So we want the wing on the other side, so let's duplicate this one, and then rather than -50 we're gonna put 50, and then this and this, and then we merge those two together, double click, and then we go into the geo transform, and then we find the rotation, and then it should be the Y. Yeah, so let's toggle the override, timeline override, and now you see the keyframes are appearing over there. And for this kind of animation, since it's just like a very basic one, so let's just use 16 frame, should be more than enough. So first I want to isolate the looping region, so I click on this one and set 1202 16, and then mouse wheel up to zoom in, and there you have it. So so it's gonna be one key over there, shift click or double click, 4, 8, 0, 4, 8, 12 and 16. This one should be, it's 45, maybe 65. Let's roll with 65 first. So that's 65. 65 is over here as well. There too. And this one is going to be -65 there as well. So there you go. First wing is done, so let's just go with the other one. So rotation, and this one should be the reverse, so it should be in the negative or up. So let's just go, yeah, just go with that. I could move the pivot so that now we can make the animation in positive axis, but to be honest, it's not worth the trouble. So it's gonna be -65, and then on the key on 4, 8, 12 and 16. So yeah, this one 65, this one as well, and as you can see we have our animation. So we could go on with that, but to be honest, it's very flat and it kind of breaks the immersion a little bit. So first I'm gonna add a transform node where then I have this pivot that is centered to this one. And yeah, what else can we do? For the bending, I want to add a warp, geodisplace warp, and then what I can do on this one is disabling the clamp above and below, because we want the bending to be happening above and below and not being clamped. So just add a bending, as you can see. Bending angle maybe, let's try 45, or maybe 25. So play with the animation. As you can see, it's gonna bend below and above as well, 25 degrees. So let's also duplicate this one and do it for the other wing. There you go. And this one should be on the negative, so minus 25, and as you can see, it works. And there you go. Alright, and then we have the transform. So usually if you want to export the mesh, usually you would want the mesh to be facing the forward axis, and then depending on the engine is going to be either the Y or the X, but I'm going to go with the X1 because I think it's the one, the forward angle vector in Unreal, if I remember well. So you can do a maybe like this. I'll double click on this one, like so, 90 degrees, and now you add another transform. So yeah, as you can see, change the pivot over there, and then add another transform to add another pivot like this. And there you go. Now you're ready to plug this one into the geometry. And then, well, let's just play with the camera. Is it in rendering? Light, it's the sun. It's not the camera, it's the sun, right? Let's go like this. Now, alright, so next step would be to cut the mesh so that it looks more like wings flapping. So what I like to do is to get a shape node, the 2D one, and then I do opacity mask, and there you have it. Now what can you do with this one? Well, go to the width remap. There's a curve over there where you can kind of pinch the shape so that it fits what you want to achieve with this one. Maybe make it like so. Yeah. So then what else can you do? You can also add a transform. And then by default, as you can see, it is tiling, but you don't want that. But I tend not to touch this parameter over there, and I want the tiling to be, I guess, contextual. So I'm gonna do the not tiling option over there. So tiling from parent, no, I want absolute, and I want no tiling. Why? Well, because if I, for example, stretch the texture like this, well, because it is tiling, you're gonna have these kind of shapes. If that's what you want, well, that's fine. But if that's not what you want, well, it is not fine. Well, there you go. I don't want them to be tiling. So just go with that. From parent, no, absolute, no tiling. Again, if you're familiar with Substance Designer, you're gonna be right home. So non-uniform scale, I want those two wings to be pretty much touching each other, and then I want to do as well increase the non-uniform scale. That way we have some kind of butterfly wings already. You can even go even further by adding some noise to the shape. So what can you do with that? So you do, I like to do UV, and then it'll be UV noise, and then as you can see, it's gonna highlight some issues with the UV themselves. Is because they have the same UV orientation. So how do you fix that? Well, you can go back to here, add a geo UV, and then do it like this, and then it looks fucked up, but that's because the default parameters for the geo UV is set to planar for the projection, but we want to keep it current. Same for this one as well. But what you want to do, and it's better if we click on the geo merge for this one, and then we switch to the set checkerboard UV grid. So as you can see, the UVs have the same orientation, but you don't want that. You want either this one to be mirrored this one or the other way around. So we can go with, I think it should be this one with a flip UV. So we can do, I think it's mirror. So no, not this one. Either like this. I think I would rather do it like so, on this side maybe. Yeah. So if we go back to here, now as you can see, the shapes are perfectly symmetrical, I would say, mirroring each other. So now let's go back to the UV noise. It's a bit too much, so let's play with the scale, and then maybe, yeah, something like this. And now there you go. I think that should be pretty much it for this part. So the next part, well, first we save. So there's gonna be butterfly IlluGen demo. So the idea after that is to capture what's in the viewport, to render them as sequence that you can then assemble as flipbooks. So since you're gonna capture what's in there, you're gonna have to hide a few stuff, and then you're gonna need to center the camera so that your shape is centered. So first what you can do is to disable the toggle grid visibility, and then, well, the background is gray, but you don't want gray, you want it to be black. So how do you do that? You go into the renderer node, and then you scroll down at the bottom until you get to the background section. Then you change it for uniform color, and then you set the color, and this one is pretty confusing because the color over there is gray, so it's gray on gray, so it's not visible right away, but it is there. So click on it and then set it to fully black. And now you get some kind of fade out over there, but that's because there is a light that is upward on that at the top, so it should be now something like this, or below if you want. Well, I would like it to be on top, but then again, like this, you can have some nice effect as well to simulate the fade out over the edge of the wings. So okay, let's just say this is enough. Let me just center the camera a bit to take the maximum space, but okay, should be like this. Alright, so what you can do is just drag this pin out for the viewport, and then you only have one option available anyway. You have the export viewport, and now what you want to do is exporting those as sequence. So you tick this box, which is sequence, so it's going to render those as individual frame. So by default it's 64, but for us we want a 16 we want 16 frame. And also check the directory where you want to export, and I took the liberty to do that already. Create some folders, and then I'm gonna do the keyframe version. Alright, so I'm copying the path. I then go over there and then copy this path over there. So I'm just gonna touch this over there because it's gonna take the project name to rename those sequence file. So let's just go and export now, and as you can see, you got 16 frames that have been generated. So maybe not the best angle though, so maybe we can move like this, maybe like so. Should be enough. So export again. Alright, just go there. There you have it. It's kind of good, but anyway, let's just proceed for now, and then we're gonna make adjustment later on if it's actually a problem. So the next step is you go back to your folder where you generated the sequence. You got 16 of them, as you can see at the bottom, 16 items. So what you're gonna do is drag and drop the first frame right in your graph. So it's gonna automatically create a import texture node. So click on it, select it, and then you're gonna have to take this box, which is sequence, so that it knows that it's gonna take individual frames that is gonna bake later on into a sheet and code to make a flipbook. So first frame 0, that's okay. Then number of frames gonna be 16. Stride no, and then that should be it for this part. What you want to do after that is using a sheet encode, and that's not good because by default it's 64, so we want to get a 16 as well. Column's gonna be 4 because 4 by 4 equals 16, and then press spacebar to render this out. Yeah, and then you wanna export this because, well, it's what you want. Export color because it's a color you see over there, and then couple of things. You want to set your first frame parameter to the last frame of your total length, animation total length. So in our case it's going to be 16 because we are at 16 frame, but if it's a 8 by 8, so it's going to be 64, so on and so forth. So input 16. And why? Well, that's because when you're gonna generate your flipbook, if you don't set this one, it's gonna try to pick one of the frames in between, and then at some point you're gonna have like some risk where you're gonna have like missing frames. So that's not good. Sometimes you're gonna pick frames over there, like 4 frames. You only got 4 frames, or here you're gonna just have like one, like what, 15. Sometimes over there just the first frame. So you don't want that. You want a consistent result. So you always set the first frame parameter to the last one. So again, for this one, set the directory destination and path, and in our case we want it to be inside Unreal because we want to showcase all this inside the engine. So I took the liberty of creating a path over there. I'm gonna create some kind of material for now. Some material, simple, maybe just butterfly. Yeah. So that means that for now we got a point of reference in our folder, which is the material. And then what I can do is right click on it and then show in Explorer, then copy the path over there, and then go back to IlluGen, go back into the export color node, and then copy the path over there. And what I like to do is rename that file. So it's gonna be T butterfly 4x4. And now if you click export, and then usually you don't have to touch any other options, and then unless you want to toggle off the sRGB texture, export an alpha if you want, or maybe export to 16 bits. But for texture you don't need to for this kind of texture. So export now, there you go, and then you go back to Unreal and then you wait out, and now you're gonna have a prompt for importing the texture. Say yes, and there you have it. You have your texture, no alpha. So in a real project you're gonna need like to probably scale down the texture because, well, it's gonna be butterflies. You don't need to be that big. So let's just go to bias and then reduce it by 2. So it's gonna be a 512 by 512. And then on the compression settings, compress without alpha. We already don't have alpha anyway. So this one, sRGB and compressed. Well, anyway, you don't need anything else than that. So maybe you can set to grayscale. But then again, it's gonna cost way too much for this. So I'm just gonna leave it by default. Just go back over there, and then what we want to do is drag and drop this texture inside the material, and then change the blending mode for not additive, but let's just go with masked for this one. So it's gonna be multiply particle color, and then we want it to be two-sided as well. Defaultly, yeah, we can leave it like this. You can add the eye adaptation as well, and a divider. Yeah. So this one, apply in the emissive, and what else? This one multiply by this one, and then maybe here, maybe this as well, and then plug it into the opacity mask, and there you go. That should be enough for now. So go back here, and then we create a new Niagara system. I like to do generate from scratch, so it's going to be a minimal emitter. So it's going to be renamed NS butterflies. Yep. So first of all, I'm gonna have to create a material instance for this one, because usually you don't want to have to use the master material when you're making an effect. Butterflies, because what can happen is that if you want to update the material and not the material instance, you want to keep this one, you can just like go into the material instance and replace the master material. So, but anyway, so ME butterfly right there, and then we assign it over there. So I'm just gonna drag this one out here and then going like this. Let's drag and drop the particle system over there so that we can actually see what we're doing. And so add a spawn rate, fix this one. Oh well, it's supposed to be an emitter update, so it's gonna be maybe say 15. Then go back to sprite render and then you go to sub UV blending, yes, and then it's a 4x4 texture, so over there. So the first frame is displayed over there, and then maybe, well not maybe, we will add a sub UV animation module. First thing I need to do is to assign the proper renderer, and we only have one anyway. So maybe add a shape location, and let's go with a ring, a disk, and then this coverage is gonna be 1. So it's gonna cover the whole disk location rather than the edges, like so. And now you have your animation, right? So what else can you do? So initialize particle and then set the random lifetime from maybe 4 to 6, and the animation is gonna scale according to the lifetime of the particle. So the longer the particle is, the longer the animation is. But I don't want that. What I want is to have this animation to be looping, and it's already a perfect loop anyway. So sub UV animation, go back there and then set the sub UV animation type for a infinite loop, and there we have this. So you have loops per second, and then you can have like you can then add a random between I don't know, 0.8 and 2. So you got that range over there. How about this? Maybe 0.1 to 0.5. Maybe if, there you have it. And then why I also like to use the mask blending mode for that? Well, that's because you don't pay the cost of the particles for the transparency around it. You know, like you see, like the texture is gonna perfectly be cut out around the shape of the the texture, like the shape you made. So what else can we do? We can maybe add a color, just the size first, and then random uniform. Oh yeah, 5 to 10, maybe 125 to 50. Then we can probably set those to the ground. Maybe set it one to local, and then GPU, and then fixed bounds, and then let's just go with 2500. Yeah. Well, you can also automatically calculate the bounds over there if you click on it, the 3 dots over the bound section, and then either choose the system or the emitter. But for now, since I don't know yet how large or how far they're going to be, I'd rather not use this for now. So what can we do? Well, we can change the color. So it's gonna be color mode, and then random hue saturation range, multiply, like this, and then maybe set it to lit, actually, a default lit, yeah. So for the color, how about this kind of stuff? Looks pretty cool already. And then yeah, maybe increase by 250 over there. And what else can we do? Maybe make them maybe 8 instead of 15, and then particle spawn, some add velocity, fix this one. Also want to add a velocity, so force and velocity. I don't know why it doesn't add this one either, because it should automatically do this, but it doesn't. So we got this one, apply initial force, add velocity linear. So maybe we can do a random range vector. So it's gonna be 25 and 15, and then minus 50, 50, 50, and 50 for this. So I got stuff like this now. And then usually what you would want as well is to have your particles following orientation to be alignment to be velocity aligned. So now you have the butterflies orienting properly aligned to the velocity. Well, it might look a bit off still, but that's because it depends on how you render your spreadsheet. So maybe it's gonna look better like this, like this, like this, or like this. It's up to you. So yeah, now you got butterflies. What else can you do? Well, we can scale color, and then curve for the alpha. Probably doesn't work properly now, but that's because maybe I should use a leader, number AA, this. Yeah, but more like this, 0.8, and then 1. Oh, you know, you can properly make them fade out using another blending mode. So maybe we can also increase, well, rather than loop per second, we can do frames per second. So it's gonna be 18. But the loops per second works as well. So 1 and 2. And what I also like to do is when you actually set the path to be the folder inside Unreal, is that when you redo an export, so let's just use this one, rotate, and then you re-export again, overwrite, and then, well, it's not gonna work for this one because, well, maybe import, nope, because there's nothing that changed. So it should be, how do you do that again? Unreal, no, IlluGen, export viewport, and then you have to export again new sequences, and then you have to redo the import over there, and there you have it. And then export now, go back to Unreal, and then you have a prompt for the import, and now you see the flipbook change because you change the capture orientation, if I can call it like this. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Hope it's gonna be useful to you.